Okay. I asked about the things that I could talk about. And Erin started to talk about the sea. So what can I say about the sea? Yeah, I will insert here like map of Poland and where I am and where the sea is. But I am basically at the ass end of Poland. At the other side of Poland, the sea is. However, it's not like I never was there. It's just not something I see every day. I need to check what's the status of Baltic these days. I remember a couple of years ago it was terrible, and I don't see too much movement in this area. It was said that to safely eat fish from there, you couldn't eat them more often than once a week. Because Soviets used the Baltic to dump all of their stockpiles of chemical weapons, and about half of Germany's stockpiles from World War II. So there is this also in the West. There is this place between Great Britain and Ireland that has the same problem. So now a lot of fishing vessels, at least, they pick up like a gigantic human-sized, not crystals exactly. It's like a bar of soap, except human size, you know. And it's basically various types of chemical weapons that sort of crystallize, that I mean, they were in metal bottles, but you know, metal bottles are like 80 years on the seafloor. It doesn't. Let's just say they leaked. So, and yes, technically, there isn't a problem if you you know, say that's what your nets caught. Like you won't go to prison, but you have to fill a lot of paperwork, and you know, your vessel might be impounded until that moment and stuff like this. So most fishermen simply, you know, throw it over the board, and the problem is increasing. Until 2013, I believe Denmark was tracking how bad the situation in Baltic was. But of course, again, Denmark, it's much less corrupted than Poland, but still they decided to stop tracking it because their own data made it look that they should probably close fisheries. They should, you know, yeah. So, and Poland, of course, never had such an extensive program about it. There were ideas. I looked into it at least 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, before, after the pandemic, but before Russia invaded Ukraine again. So yeah, 5 years ago. I looked into it, and let's just say that I wasn't optimistic back then. It's possible that now maybe it's one time you can eat fish from Baltic once every 10 days or maybe once every 2 weeks. Like, it shouldn't. It's most of it's reasonably far from the coast and in a reasonably deep water, so depending on the type of the fish, it should be fine. And it's not like you eat it twice in a row and you will feel horrible. It's like if you consume fish every week, that's the most often that you can consume fish on a longer time scale. Still, it's horrifying. I've been in Kołobrzeg. It's actually a very old city. If I remember correctly, it was one of those cities that had bishops in one of the earliest times in Poland. So even though it's a relatively small town by today's standard, like, you know, tens of thousands of people compared to like Kraków, which is 800,000 people plus people who are not registered, probably over 1.5 million together. Then you know, Kołobrzeg is much smaller. Very nice place. I'll be back. I will continue it for a few minutes. Okay. What else I could talk about when it comes to sea? Sea is wet. Okay, now. Kołobrzeg, the city that I was, the town that I was on near the sea. Beautiful place. I have very fond memories from that place, but let's just say that when it comes in Poland, sea was always very, very important for Poland. Because in a way, this is slightly mythologized, but only a bit. In a way, Poland started with the access to the sea. Now, in reality, it was mostly accessed by the rivers. But it was vital for Polish state to have access to the sea, because especially later we traded wheat, various food products to the Western Europe, and sometimes it was easier to do it by sea. We had very, very scrappy fleet. Basically, I think we built fleet 2 times, and twice we sold it almost immediately. because like Poland didn't have any well, it's not that there wasn't any need for a fleet. There was, looking at you, Sweden, but it wasn't the main thing that was useful. You just needed to contest any landing. That was enough. Like, even if someone brought like extremely large ships, they would be able to disembark maybe few thousand troops at the time. That wasn't like a huge problem. And it was one of the reasons why we went to war with the Teutonic Order. Because they forced us to give up Gdańsk, you know it as Danzig, and rights to Pomerania, Pomorze in Polish. Pomorze literally means basically land near the sea, or land after the sea. So we always fought to have some access to the sea, and in the interwar period we had access to the sea, but Gdańsk was officially, it was free city under League of Nations. In reality it was Germany was, you know, in lead there and governing there. So that's why Poland built Gdynia. I think it started in 1924, and by 1934 or 1936, something like that, so in 10 to 12 years it managed to ship more than Gdańsk did. So it was a huge nationwide project. So we had sea-going port. If you might have seen it mentioned, for example, where did Bismarck, the ship, went from on its last voyage? From Goetenhafen, which means it's like haven of Goths. That's the name that Germany did give to Gdynia, claiming that it's some kind of ancient Gothic city. Which it wasn't. Back then it was 15 years old. There were a few villages there that I guess you could call them German 500 years before that. Yeah. Also Tirpitz was there. I remember that like in the last 2 years USS Kearsarge visited Gdynia, and it was either the heaviest or second heaviest ship there after Tirpitz. So yeah, you know, this kind of stuff. What was also important in Poland, the idea of Międzymorze, Intermarium. That was important for many reasons, including prestigious, but if you can take stuff that, for example, arrives via Black Sea and then you transport it on land, and you can use Baltic to trade with it, that's big. That's something very important. So the region of Bessarabia, the Moldova, northern parts of today Romania, again Moldova, Transnistria, parts of Ukraine, southeastern parts of Ukraine, I think including Odessa. I'm not certain at the moment, but it's plausible. So those were parts that we kind of wanted to, and at some point we had control over them, just not as much as we want to pretend. And there was, of course, a lot more to this, because the idea of Intermarium wasn't just Poland, nor was it just Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It was to build, ideally, it was to build alliance of nations in Central Europe, Central and Eastern Europe, that would be between Baltic and Black Sea and probably Adriatic Sea, so you know, Eastern Italy. So basically block of such nations that would be powerful enough that it could resist, for example, Germany or France or Soviet Union, Russia, in other words. So that's what the concept was. Okay, we'll just check on prices of diesel. If it's cheap enough, I might fill up the tank. Yeah, I might buy it. Okay. But for now, that's enough. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Tell me what else should I talk about. Generally speaking, take care. Bye.